Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Exercise is Bullshit, which of course stands for bodybuilding, utilizing logical lifting and scientific heuristics to inform training. I am joined today by my friend and the owner of Max Strength, Jeff Tomaszewski, out of the greater Cleveland area. Jeff, why don't you say hello and give us a little bit of your background? Tell us who you are.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate this. I've been looking forward to being on here with you. Love what you do for the space. I've been in personal fitness and training, athletic training, physical therapy for the last 20 plus years. I graduated from college out of Case Western Reserve University here in Cleveland. I was an athletic trainer, strength conditioning coach. Thought my life's ambition and endeavor was to become a physical therapist. So I went into physical therapy working as a clinical outpatient athletic trainer in that setting for 4 years. That's where I actually learned about what we do here at Max Strength Fitness from a high intensity continuous tension model with Arthur Jones and Ken Hutchins and Mike Menzer and all of that. I cut my teeth on running a Medix medical lumbar machine. Our physical therapist who owned the company was pretty progressive. But I got disenamored with the physical therapy practice just because it's insurance driven. If you ever had physical therapy, you're given like 8 to 10 visits. You're kicked out after that. Here's a sheet of home exercises. Most people are not compliant. So I knew there had to be a better way. And upon discovering this type of style of training, we started implementing it with all of our patients at that time. So we weren't just addressing the root cause, we were addressing the entire body as a whole. And then having the experience of the Medix medical lumbar machine with the high intensity strength training just has set me forward with that. So after that, I went back to Case Western, my alma mater. I was the strength coach. I was a professor. I was getting my master's at the med school as the athletic trainer. So I did a lot of things during that time. Did that for 3 years and then started this company and back in 2004, and then been doing it ever since.
So when you were at the physical therapy clinic, was this kind of like a Kaiser model, for lack of a better word? Like were you guys
It
only
was
doing
it
that
was a
sort of thing?
traditional outpatient physical therapy clinic. So we
Okay.
would see everything. We'd see upper body, lower body, spine, but we had a Medix medical lumbar machine in my studio. And so that was my task, was to rehab spines in the worst of the worst. I did other rehabs as well, ACL, shoulders. I mean, saw everything, but I specialized in spinal rehab at that time.
Gotcha. So were you doing any other training? Did they have any other high-end equipment there that you were actually like doing personal training with people, or was it
I
just
wouldn't,
the
no, I wouldn't call it
rehabilitation?
high-end training equipment by any stretch of imagination. I forget what brand we had, but we had a leg press, we had a couple different things, but nothing specialized for sure. So it was just traditional PT, which is pretty antiquated to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Most physical therapy practice, I mean, their sole goal is just to get you back to normal functionality and decrease your pain and have functional range of motion so you can do daily tasks.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw that there's a disconnect between going from therapy to post therapy, where people are just given a quote unquote home program. And there's no really transition for those people to really strengthen the entire body post therapy. And that's where I think we come in. And that's where we have a very specific niche. Is we like to say, we fix people, we don't break them. Because our clientele, being typically 45 and above, have some type of chronic injury over the years of just wear and tear, or they've done nothing at all and they are intimidated by a traditional gym setting. And that's where we come into from the uniqueness of our clinically controlled setting.
Yeah, when you talked about kind of your introduction to, and I want to talk a lot more about max strength, that's really what we're here to talk about today.
Sure.
But as far as your introduction to high intensity training and Arthur Jones and all of those things, what did that look like? Because you said it was the physical therapist that was there. How did he kind of introduce those philosophies to you at the time?
Yeah, so actually it was twofold. So the physical therapist who ran the practice was very progressive in all of the different modalities that we would utilize. Hence, having a $60,000 Medix medical lumbar machine in one of our studios. But then, more importantly and more influential was my colleague Josh Trentini, who worked in the practice with me. That's where I really got turned on to Ken Hutchins, Arthur Jones, Mike Menzer. He was into bodybuilding. He turned me into all of that stuff. And he's like, there's an amazing protocol. It's only 20 minutes twice a week. And I was like, that's bullshit. But then he taught me that and I learned that and then started studying underneath him, started studying underneath Ken and got certified as a super slow instructor. And, that's actually where it all started, was with Josh and through Ken from that perspective.
Got it. And I knew you had the relationship with Josh. I wasn't realized where that was where you two
Yeah,
linked up. So
that's where we
that's
met.
kind
Yeah.
of filling in some gaps for me. That's cool. So before we dive a little more into your history and then what Max Strength is and how it's working now, I love to ask my guests kind of, we all have this sort of scientific mindset. And the only way to tell somebody who's actually science-based from someone who's not is someone who's willing to change their mind in the face of substantial scientific evidence to the contrary of their previous position. So obviously you've been pretty well deep into high intensity training for a long time. I know you guys at Max Strength stay up to date on all the research. Is there anything in the last, say, 3 to 5 years that's really kind of created a monumental shift in how you view exercise, or could be diet related, nutrition, could be how to train people, anything like that jump out to you?
I think the biggest thing is just the validation of what we do and how we do it, and just really understanding that continuous tension is the key factor for all of it. And then intensity based versus volume based. Look, you can get results doing 1,000 different things, 1,000 different ways. I'm not here to argue that our way is the only way. For us, we've settled on it because it's efficient, it's effective, and it's safe. And that's one of our core values at Max Strength Fitness, and it all deals with the protocol. So if it's not one of those, if it's not all three of those buckets, then it doesn't fit with what we do. And in dealing with our demographic being 50 and above, typically it's the safest modality that they've ever experienced, and they need that safety. They need that reassurance because they're not going to go into traditional gym. They're intimidated by it. They don't know what to do, how to do it. They're not going to sit there and do burpees and chin ups and all these other things. They just want to get results in a fraction of the time they normally spend in the gym because they're building their wealth, right? So I always say our clientele have built their wealth, but let their health suffer. And that's where we come in. So I think just the research that's now finally coming out, just to support what we do and how we do it. Yes, we're always looking at different things. And I think the other thing too is like there's so many conflicting data points out there as far as research goes. I defended a master's thesis when I was at Case Western, and I really dived into all the things that go into doing a master's thesis. And let's be honest, if you have a hypothesis and you have confirmation bias, you're going to end up figuring out what you want to figure out somehow, some
Yeah.
way, manipulating some variable. Not to say that everybody does that, but it opened my eyes to a lot of the different research that's being done out there. And a lot of times the research is done with not the cohort or the people that you actually want to see being done on. Maybe it's newbies that everybody's going to get a result, or maybe it's trained athletes and they're only going to get a fraction of the result. So I don't know. I look at it with a grain of salt. I absolutely pay attention to it. But honestly, the 20 years of experience of training hundreds of thousands of sessions, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, with the results that we get with our clients. Again,
Yeah,
not
I
that they
love
couldn't
that.
get results doing other things, but they absolutely get profound improvements in the quality of their health and fitness through 20 minutes twice a week of continuous tension, high intensity strength training.
Yeah, and I've definitely evolved in my philosophy and how I think about exercise too, and approaching it with different clients. But it's always under that same philosophy that I learned because I was brought up in a Ken Hutchins kind of super slow way as well. And just Ken Hutchins' definition of exercise is something that always sticks with me. I'm probably going to butcher it, but it's something to the effect of exercise is the process whereby the body performs work of a demanding nature in accordance with muscle and joint function in a clinically controlled environment within the constraints of safety, meaningfully loading the muscular structures to enroll their strength levels to stimulate a growth mechanism within minimum time. I think I got it.
You
But if
nailed
you
it. I would be so happy right now.
I remember sitting there just memorizing that for my first place. But if you break that down, it's literally the perfect definition of exercise, right? It
Yeah.
should be safe, it should be effective, it should be efficient, all those things
Yeah,
you
look,
just
you
mentioned.
can't argue the definition there, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's important because what Ken did is he set the foundation of something that can be scalable and that is safe and that anybody can do at any age, at any stage of their life. So, I think he gets a lot of flack for being dogmatic in his approach. But at the end of the day, again, you don't have to believe in it. You don't have to
Yep.
do it. So, I'm of the belief of I firmly am a proponent and a champion of anybody who is trying to do good in the industry and help people with their fitness. Whether it's a super slow systems, a high intensity, whatever the model is, even if it's CrossFit done well,
Yep.
at least they're trying to help people, right? So, I look at that from that perspective of just trying to be around like-minded people. And look, what we do in our very little niche of high intensity strength training, is it's a small umbrella, or a small niche under that big umbrella of fitness. So I know people like to argue online and have contentious thoughts about it. I'm just not one of those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
a
I love
lover, not
that.
a stayer.
I love that mindset. So tell me a little bit more about the origin of max strength. So you meet Josh, you go back to Case Western for a little. When is kind of well, tell me first about your first high intensity workout. Like, did Josh take you through that, or what did that look like? And then
Yeah.
what was kind of the light bulb moment for you where you realized, I need to do this not just for me, but for other people, and I need to spread the word.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a light bulb moment for me. The first time I did a leg press, one set to muscular failure, and that was with Josh. And I was like, this makes sense. And then you look at the science, you look at the research, and you look at everything behind it, even though there wasn't a ton of research behind it at that time, but it just intuitively made sense from a stimulus response model, right? That Dr. McGuff always talks about. And then dive in more into Ken's stuff and looking in more into Arthur Jones, and then reading Heavy Duty with Mike Menzer, and Josh had, all kinds of stuff at his home, and then it just evolved from there. So when I left the physical therapy practice to go back to Case, Josh shortly left the PT practice at that time, and he got certified as a master level super slow instructor. Started with a couple of our old patients out of his home and took 3 pieces of equipment he bought from Ken: a leg press, ventral torso, and compound row, and then just started building that from there. And look, I will always forever be grateful to that guy for the opportunity that he gave me and the knowledge that he gave me. We've since parted ways as far as business goes, and that's fine. People have different walks of life and different seasons of life that people come into your life. But again, I'll always be forever grateful to Josh for turning me on to this style of training, and then giving me the opportunity to build that with him for, we were together for like nine plus years. So
So you started with him out of his garage
yeah,
training people? Gotcha.
well, we didn't start out of his garage. What we did is it was out of his house actually, and so he built his book of business in his house for about 3 plus years. And then while I was at Case getting my master's, and when I was done with my master's, like, all right, I don't want to be an athletic trainer anymore because I was just to start to have a family, and I didn't want to be on the road all the time. I mean, it's tons of travel, right? And so I wanted to be a present dad. So Josh and I collaborated and then came together, and we took his clientele and his equipment, and we opened up a formal space in Beechwood, Ohio, and got into a office space, and we just started growing it from there.
Was it max strength from the beginning, or
No,
did it have?
no. At the beginning, it was Overload Fitness, which
Okay,
is what Josh still has today. When we
gotcha,
separated in 2013, I changed the name to Max Strength Fitness. He took the beach
gotcha,
studio, I took our Westlake studio, and then we just parted from there.
gotcha. So tell me a little bit more about well, first give us a kind of a brief overview of max strength, because we've obviously heard your modality and your philosophy, but what is max strength? What could people, if they've never heard of it before, describe the business model, your training client model, the aesthetic, what
Yeah,
someone could expect from a workout.
sure. I always say, at Max Strength Fitness, we help men and women over 40 reverse the aging process in only 20 minutes twice a week without breaking a sweat or changing your clothes, because everybody deserves to be healthy, fit, and strong without wasting hours in the gym. So we're all about efficient, effective, and safe. When you walk into our studios, when you first walk in the door, the common area, as we call it, the reception area, it's separated by double doors into the clinical area of our studio, right? So I want a distraction-free environment. I've kept what Ken started with, the definition of exercise in a clinically controlled environment, to this day, as I think it's important. So it's just, first and foremost, it's temperature controlled. We keep it about 67 degrees Fahrenheit. Just like your car, if it overheats, it doesn't run as well. It's a mechanical process, but people think we need to sweat to be productive. Not true. Bonus, you can come in, train. Most of our clients just come in street clothes, business clothes. They don't even change. They go right back to it. No showering, no grooming, anything like that. So there's no wasted time. We take all the fluff out of exercise and just get right to it, right? And that's also distraction free. We've kept that model because coming from physical therapy and studying underneath Ken, that clinically controlled environment, I think, is vitally important when you do a one-on-one model, because you want that extreme attention the entire time. No mirrors, no music, allows for extreme focus. Most gyms are social settings, music blaring, people socializing. And people love those environments. And that's great. It's just not for us, because every word that comes out of our mouth has to have a profound meaning to the effect of the client and what they're doing. Like Brian, my VP of personal training, has been with me for 16 years, says, people pay us for our words. And I think that's profound when you think about it. Rather than just rah-rah cheerleading or having a conversation and just kind of going through the motions, we are really focused the entire time, laser focused on the client every second we're with them. We don't even allow cell phones by our staff inside that studio or clients. I mean, I want it completely distraction free. I want the client to check their mind at the door, let us be their mind for that moment in time. Look, we deal with busy executives all day long. They're making thousands of decisions, and decision fatigue is a real thing. And the beauty they love working with us is they don't have to think. They're paying
Yeah.
us to do that for them and to get a great result out of it. So it's distraction free. It's temperature controlled. Equipment we utilize, we've settled on, many lines of equipment over time. Lately, we've gone with Imagine Strength with Jeff Turner. There's iterations from Nautilus to Medex to everything that Jeff has done now with the Imagine line, which I love. Low friction, movement patterns, highly customizable, muscle joint function tracks, just like everything that Arthur created back in the day with the first Nautilus cam. So love the equipment there. So specialized equipment to get a specialized routine. Again, you can get results doing anything with any modality. We just have settled on that from that perspective. So it's ideally 20 minutes. It's machine to machine, no work, no rest in between, total body workout, upper body, lower body, spine, anywhere between probably 6 to 9 exercises. Continuous tension on every machine to muscular fatigue or failure, depending on the client's level of aptitude and where they're at in their client journey. Ideally twice a week. So a couple of days of rest in between, in, out, back to their busy day. And that's
And
us.
you guys have that's a great explanation, and I think kind of gives people a really good picture of what to expect from the studios. If you haven't before, definitely check out the Max Strength website, because I think that the pictures do it a lot of justice as far as what the atmosphere looks like. You guys do have fans at every station, correct, as well?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we rarely need them, but if somebody
Okay.
is a heavy sweater, we will turn the fan on just to dissipate that heat. So
Yeah.
it is comfortable for them. As soon as you start to overheat, you become less efficient, just like I said, from a mechanical perspective. Plus the bonus, we don't want them sweating so they can go back to their busy day. Don't have to worry about showering or grooming, but we do it for the internal physiological perspective. And I'm glad you hit on the aesthetics of the studio. Like you could go in and, spend very little money and just paint and carpet, whatever, and, tile on your floors. But we've gone to great lengths to make sure that the aesthetics match the premium pricing brand. I like to say we don't compete on price. It doesn't mean we're the most expensive person on the block from personal training. I'd say we're average. Our sessions average around $60 per session. Most personal trainers are going to charge $50 to $70 per hour, ask you to come 3-4 days a week. I always say we save you time and money in the long run from that perspective. But you have to have the look, the professionalism, the way we dress, shirt and tie, or we got rid of the ties once we franchised, but we wore those for 20 years. But now, polo branded, everything,
Thank God.
professional attire, things of that nature. But we still dress professional. We're
Yeah.
not going to come in gym clothes and sweats and things like that. So, we're dealing with a higher end clientele and affluent clientele. That's just the niche that we've always served since day one. When you go into business, you can serve whomever you want. And if you try to market to everybody, you market to nobody. So as they say, riches are in the niches. And I love dealing with that demographic because it was the same demographic I dealt with when we were in physical therapy. It's an older clientele. They really appreciate the value you bring to them and the results that you give. And when you give them great results in a fraction of the time they normally spend in the gym, and they love the environment and the people they do business with, they stay with you for a long period of time. So our retention is extremely high. I
Yeah.
mean, I've been
I
doing this, like I said, for 20 years, and I still have clients. I have a client who was with Josh prior to him in his house, who's still with us once a week for 24 plus years. So
Yeah, that's crazy. The retention is definitely something to get people thinking about it, especially if they're interested in potentially being a franchise owner in the future. I mean, I think one of the hardest things at first is if you get somebody who maybe used to work out when they were in their 20s or something, now they're in their 40s or 50s, and they think they know or expect what a gym is to look like, to come in to that quiet place. All you hear is the
yeah,
fans going. But very quickly, like you said, I think people really appreciate the focused attention to detail and what they actually came to do. They didn't come
yeah,
to sit around on a
no,
machine or wait for some girl, texting and taking
right,
Instagram photos on the machine they wanted to use for 25 minutes.
yeah,
Like, they came to work out. So why
yeah,
not just get cut straight to the point? And when you're in the studio, because obviously you guys have kind of created this model where the first studio I was at, we literally had separate rooms. So you would crisscross trainers. You guys have a larger open room,
yeah.
right? So you'll have multiple trainers going at the same time.
Yeah, I call it a semi-private environment, and
Yeah.
the fact that you're always one-on-one with your trainer. You're not worried about what anybody else is doing, and because we're not rah-rah cheerleading, yelling, screaming, and conversing, it really is your own in your own little bubble. And when you're,
Yeah.
as you know, when you go through a high-intensity workout, you want to internalize and focus inside of what you're doing from a mechanical perspective, and so you kind of get lost within your own world of your own vision with just hearing that trainer just instruct you through that entire set. Yeah, so we have multiple trainers. I mean, we'll have 5 to 6 trainers in there at a
Oh,
time.
great.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
from a
awesome.
business perspective, it just makes more sense too.
Yeah, definitely. Can you kind of walk us through that process for somebody who maybe, because you guys are expanding and probably pretty soon there's going to be a max strength around one of our listeners' neighborhoods if there's not already. So what does that first workout experience look like? Coming through the door, getting greeted, all the way to sign up. Can you kind of give us the
Yeah.
rundown on
So
that?
so we call this a prescriptive consultation, in the fact that we are going to prescribe exercise just like doctors prescribe medication. So we're going to go through an intensive medical background. We're going to ask about their aches, their pains, their injuries, blood pressure, cholesterol, bone density issues, any of those things, because our modality can profoundly improve all of those. So we want to see where they're starting at and get a benchmark from that perspective. Then we're going to talk about their past activity, what they've done in the past, what they might be currently doing, what's worked, what hasn't. We'll talk about their goals, what they want to get out of their fitness moving forward. We'll then educate them about how we train, as Ken calls it, the preliminary considerations to exercise. We've kind of modified that over time. And then we'll go into a demo workout. The demo workout typically is 3 exercises. It's a leg press going into a compound pull or a compound press, or if they have a spinal issue, we'll definitely address it with our unique lumbar extension machine on that day. So we'll typically do 3 exercises. That's enough for them to understand that, 1, they're going to be safe, 2, it's going to be efficient, and 3, it's going to be effective. It's enough of them to get a taste of what we do, how we do it, and the environment and who they're working with to make an informed decision if they want to move forward. And then we'll present our packages and how we do business together, our mutual commitments, what we call them, what we commit to them, what they commit to us, just how we do business moving forward together, present our packages, and then either it's a good fit or it's not. There's no obligation whatsoever. If they sign up, they sign up, and if they don't, they don't. But look, when somebody has a personal issue with their personal fitness and they raise their hand and they're interested in personal training, I believe, and I tell my team, it is our moral obligation to acquire them as a client because I know we can help them. Now, we're not using hard sales tactics or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination. We're not for everybody. But for those who we are for, we can give them a profound result in a fraction of the time they normally spend in the gym. And it's a great relationship and rapport as we build that over time. Because at the end of the day, it is personal training, even though it's in a clinically controlled environment. So that's what the initial consultation looks like. It takes about 45 minutes. And then after that, we go from there.
That's great. Yeah, and I can definitely second that as well. Like once you get somebody to experience a set of leg press like they've never done before, you could usually just stop it after that and be like, I
Yeah.
have to do that how many more times, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it kind of sells itself for sure. As
Yeah.
far as tracking, because obviously we know that progress is so important for these people and people who are coming in for the variety of different reasons that you
Mhm.
mentioned, bone density, improving body composition. What do you guys use for tracking for your actual workouts? And then do you do any sort of body composition testing as well for
Yeah.
people?
So in all of our studios, we have an in-body scale. So we're measuring body weight, which doesn't mean anything to us. It's, percentage of body fat and skeletal muscle mass. That's what we are here combating at Max Strength Fitness and anybody else that's doing strength training. We're trying to combat sarcopenia, which is the wasting away of muscle tissue mass over time. We lose it at about 3 to 5% every decade. After 30 and after 60, it about doubles. So time's not on our side, and especially our demographic, if they're not doing anything. As the adage says, if you don't use it, you lose it. That's absolutely true. So that's our benchmark. We'll set that on the second or third visit. We don't do it during the initial consultation because there's just so much going on that first day, but their second or third visit back with us, we will do that baseline measurement. And then we set it and forget it. It takes time to get results. So we're going to look at it maybe 20 to 30 sessions down the road and get an object. So that's our objective measurement, right? So we're looking at skeletal muscle mass, looking at body composition. Now, most of our clients don't come to us to quote unquote lose weight or get skinny or be in a bathing suit. They're looking to drop their blood pressure, cholesterol, reverse their type 2 diabetes, get rid of their joint pain, be able to get on the floor with little Jimmy, their grandson, and play with him, or put the luggage in the overhead bin on the airplane. Functional ability is what they're after, and independence in life. And that's what we give them. So, a lot of clients will forget where they started. So, like, for example, if I have a woman who's got a hip replacement and she goes to put her feet up on the leg press and she struggles with it, I say, stop right there, Mrs. Jones. I want you to remember this day and time, how you
Mm,
struggled to put your feet up, because in 6 months, you're going to throw them right up and you'll forget that ever happened. And it
I love
happens
that.
all the time.
I
So
love
we
that.
take meticulous notes on those types of things to remind clients where they started. And then, to set that goal, but then keep moving the goalposts down the road, if you will, because once they accomplish it, we want to continue to set more goals and different goals because they're in different places in their life at that time once we go. So from that perspective, a lot of people say, well, track your workouts. Well, we do track our workouts. We have a digital app that we've created internally for Max Strength Fitness's use. But when a client looks at those numbers, it's like reading a foreign language. It's not really going to make much sense to them. And let's be honest, there is a diminishing return as far as your strength goes over time. It's not like we're just going to exponentially always get stronger, right? I mean, my goal right now is I'm 50 years old. I want to have as much muscle mass and strength as I do now in 30 years from now. And if I can do that, I think I've done a pretty good job of my fitness goals from that perspective. So it's
Yeah.
not like I need to get stronger and more muscle to my frame. I just want to hold on to it as long as I can because everybody else is shrinking away.
Yeah, I love that. And those subjective things are such a cool part of the business as well, to hear that, they were able to pick up their grandkid or they could put their luggage in the overhead compartment. And, once people have that light bulb moment 3 months, 6 months down the road, and it's like that's when you get somebody that stays with you for forever,
Yeah.
24
Yeah. We
years,
see, and
whatever
we
it
see
is.
it all the time. So we
Yeah.
use Slack for a communication channel. We have a transformation channel in there that all of our trainers are on and all of our franchise partners. And we just get countless testimonials. Just yesterday, we had a woman come in and she said, after training with us for a year, her doctors said, I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it. Your blood pressure medication, we're getting you off of it. We had another woman who reversed her bone density, just getting off of Fosamax and all these drugs. I mean, it warms my heart every day. We see these testimonials and this social proof, if you would, from our clientele, the results that they're getting in only 20 minutes twice a week. I don't know of any other endeavor. I always tell my team that is so rewarding from the physiological perspective that we can profoundly make that impact without surgical or medical intervention. I mean, it's a little bit of work. It's 20 minutes twice a week, but the results are profound.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, the fitness market right now, and you've talked about all the different ways that people are trying to help people, and obviously there's so many different brands, there's so many different concepts out there right now. What do you think it is, besides obviously the workout, which is the biggest selling point for you, that sets your business model, the Max Strength business model, apart from other boutique fitness concepts and even other high intensity training boutiques that seem to be within our industry kind of popping up? There's,
Sure.
Fred Hahn starting to franchise, I've heard. There's Mike and Corey Beth are franchising. Like there's a bunch of different people who are starting to expand. So what is the difference maker for Max Strength?
Yeah, I think it's our culture in which we instill. Peter Drucker says culture eats strategy for breakfast. I firmly believe that. You can have the best business plan and best strategy as you go, but if your culture is toxic or if it's not on point and it's not world class, then I think that you'll suffer. I always say our business is very simple. It's two things. It's one-on-one strength training with a continuous tension protocol married with world-class customer experience. We obsess over the client journey from the time they raise their hand to the time they come in the consultation to the time they become a client and beyond. Surprise and delight. One of our core values is over deliver, give more in value than they give us in payment. And again, we don't compete on price. So an example might be one of my trainers last week. He was talking to his client and said, what are you doing this weekend? She's like, it's our 50th wedding anniversary. That's amazing. What are you guys doing? We're going over to Don Pomeroy's to celebrate. So we call ahead, send the first bottle of wine on Max Strength Fitness. Send
That's awesome.
flowers, along condolences and just birthdays and anniversaries and give free gifts and free sessions and be in the community and do goodwill and things of that nature. So I think the culture, along with the protocol itself, anybody can do. It's the team that implements it and takes a nurturing environment and profoundly cares about the client. I think that's what sets you apart.
Yeah.
And I can't, we hire based on our core values. We fire based on our core values. We retain and we give raises based on that. Everything we do is core values first to have a fit within our studio. I can teach them the acumen of how we do what we do on a day-to-day basis from a strength training perspective. I can't necessarily teach somebody how to innately smile and be nice when somebody walks in the door.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
try, but at the end of the day, you want that innate personality, right?
Yeah, for sure. So if somebody's hearing this and they're kind of interested in what this might look like, can you talk to me? And you can speak very broadly here, because obviously I know you've got your legal stuff that you have to deal with. But what does the capital investment potentially look like? And then leasing space, where are you guys trying to target these different areas? Are you looking super high end leasing areas? Are you looking lower end? Just give me kind of
Yeah.
the big
Yeah.
pitch from like a franchise perspective.
Yeah, so great question. So if somebody is interested in franchising at Max Strength Fitness, our initial fee to buy a single unit is $54,900. That gives you all the intellectual property to become a Max Strength Fitness. All franchisors have an initial fee. And then your initial investment, which is in our franchise disclosure document, it's called Item 7. It's all your investment. Your initial investment for us ranges from 437 to 638. Now that's a big range. But the majority of that is your equipment's going to run, $100,000, $110,000. That'll last you forever. And then your build out, depending on where you're at, what market you're in, our build outs can go anywhere between probably like 170 to 250. It just depends on where you're at. We're looking at 2,000 square feet ideally. So a smaller footprint compared to most gyms for sure. And we're looking at real estate from a perspective of it doesn't have to be class A retail. Actually, I prefer not to be in there. Your biggest expense outside of paying your payroll and your team is going to be your rent. So we want to keep that down as low as possible. And we're clearly a destination place. We're not a walk by place. I have a retail space in Strongsville, Ohio, our third studio that we opened up. And the only reason I opened up in a retail space, my other ones are in corporate office parks. You'd never even know we're there. There's no signage or anything. But the only reason I opened that one up is because launching a franchise, I wanted to have that in my portfolio so we can have it as an option, because half of my franchise partners moving forward have gone into retail or corporate office parks or industrial or somewhere to keep that cost down. So class B real estate is great for us. We want to keep the cost down as low as possible. Medical office parks are great for us because we have like-minded, then strategic alliances we can already plug into.
Yeah.
So those work good for us. It's ironic. There's either an Edward Jones or a Charles Schwab next to every one of my studios. So, dealing with the higher end clientele and going into those strip malls or going into those office complexes is ideally what we look for from a real estate perspective.
And obviously, it's like you mentioned, a cultural fit more than anything if somebody was interested in potentially franchising. But in your mind, maybe this involves the core values, but what makes the max strength business model potentially more appealing than whether it's other high intensity training models, or maybe it's, any in Orange Theory Fitness or whatever those other things like might be? What does the potential return look like, the day-to-day operations, all of those things?
Yeah. So, from a return perspective, and I can only speak to any financials that are in our FDD. So there's certain things I can't disclose, but
Very broadly. Yep.
yeah, that I can't. So that's very specific. We have a very detailed P&L inside of our franchise disclosure document that gives my corporate studios that are mature, it'll give the line item by line item of all of our average expenses. So you can actually do what we call a unit economics workbook and do your own P&L and do your own pro forma, if you will, because legally we can't provide a pro forma or any earnings claims based out of what's printed inside the FDD. I mean, my two corporate studios in Cleveland last year did, north of $900,000 each. We have an average return on each of those studios at 28%. So pretty good margins with it. And it'll be higher for our franchise partners because I run some other things through the business that they wouldn't necessarily have to do just from a growth perspective, from an R&D perspective. But so the margins are pretty good, from a fitness perspective in the industry itself, I think. I think what sets us apart is the initial investment is average within a franchising space. I think our revenue per cost for most studios is a little bit higher. I think that's attractive. I think the aesthetics of the business being a higher end model, if you go to maxstrengthfitness.com, you'll see our studios and how elaborate they are. The best compliment I got was somebody who's been in the industry for 30 years. And he said, that's the most beautiful studio I've ever seen. I was like, we got it right. Because we just rebranded everything when we launched our franchise a couple of years ago with our Strongsville studio and the look and the feel. So I think all of that with the culture, my leadership team, the longevity we have, like I said, Brian's been with me for 16 years, 17 years. Colleen, my VP of franchise development, been with me 11 years. Sarah, my director of onboarding, going on 4.5 years. So, we have a lot of longevity within my leadership team. I have a lot of longevity within just my team itself, because when you provide a great environment and they love what they do and you pay them competitively and they love the clientele they work with, the same thing. We have high retention with our team as well as with our clients. Yeah, I think all of those things make Max Strength Fitness a very attractive business model. Plus, we have an executive model, which I've been running for the last 8 years, which means I don't do any of the day-to-day training. I inspect what I expect. When we opened up my second studio in Willoughby, that was my franchise model, meaning I had a manager that ran the studio day to day. I would run the marketing and make sure that the team was taken care of. Then the team makes care of the clients are taken care of. The clients make sure we're taken care of by renewing. And then it's just a cyclical recycle as it goes through there. So I think all of those things, most of our franchise partners are the executive model. They're coming from corporate. They want to pivot. They don't want to do day-to-day. They don't want to be a personal trainer, but they love the fitness space and they want to do good in the community. And that's what we provide from their perspective. So they can come in and pivot and own a fitness studio without having to go through the day-to-day training of itself.
And I think that's super appealing because the model like that is something that a lot of people hope for, but I think they're sort of surprised when they realize that, oh, it's a business and they maybe didn't give me all the tools that I actually needed to be successful. And obviously having the right manager in place is going to be the most important piece to make sure that they're running those day-to-day ops. But I've heard some horror stories, obviously, from different franchises, and I won't name any names, but just like, oh my God, I thought I was just going to put money into this and then I was going to get money back. And now it's like, I have to quit my job so that I can work on this job, which was supposed to be like a part-time thing to make some extra revenue. So
we make it abundantly clear with with our franchise partners when they sign on, if they're doing the executive model, it takes time and effort in the beginning. It's not a lot of time until we open up the doors and pre-launch all the marketing. I do call it a self-managing company once you get it established, meaning that it should run itself pretty much because there's not a lot of moving parts. And like I said, it's one-on-one personal training. That's it. There's no other services or SKUs or other things that a lot of personal trainers add red light therapy and cold plunges and all these other modalities and things just to make money. But I firmly believe if you are world-class and exceptional at the result that you deliver in the one modality that we do, which is one-on-one personal strength training, we don't need to add those other services. And simplicity scales and complexity fails. So I like to always keep it simple from that perspective. But I tell my franchise partners, look, put in the work in the beginning and then bear the fruits of labor like I've been doing for the last 8 years, running now, launching the franchise. And I don't have to go into my day-to-day studios because they run themselves with my team in place. Yeah. And I empower them and give them the autonomy to do that. So I always call my team, especially my studio leaders, managers, I call them leaders because I like people want to be led instead of managed. I think words are important. But that being said, I call them entrepreneurs because they can build a business within my business. But at the end of the day, I take all the risk as the business owner. But they're as vested as I am to make that thing grow because I compensate them well. They grow with it. And they grow the team. So it's great from that perspective. Look, if you want a passive income, go buy a car wash or a vending machine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's very true. So as far as the franchising goes, when did this start and where are you guys kind of at in the journey now? And what are sort of your long-term plans? Do you have a BHAG in mind? Do you want the max strength on every single corner like McDonald's, or do you have like smaller vision, but better? What is the book? Little Giants, or no, that's wrong. Little, something like that. It's where it's like making a really good small company instead of trying to get it.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name though. But
I can't think of it.
Yeah. That being said, though, so we launched our franchise officially in January of 2023. We signed our first franchise partner, Cassie Garfield, out of Niceville, Florida. She bought 2 units. So most of our franchise partners are multi-unit territory owners, we call them. So they're going to look at longevity. And from a financial perspective, it just makes more sense to build one and then rinse and repeat rather than try to go with some different model, right? So you've already got the systems and processes in place. Now it's just duplicate. And that's the beauty of having a franchise system as well. I always tell my franchise partners, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So we started in January of 2023. Cassie signed with us in May of 2023. We sold only her that first year, awarded her, I should say. And we spent the entire next year just developing relationships with franchise consultants and brokers who bring us clientele like her. And that's how we built our business. So then the next year we sold 14 units. This year we've already sold 11, hopefully another 5 by the end of this week. So we'll be at 27 franchise partners, 32 territories awarded by the end of this week. My goal is to get to 50 by the end of the year, add an additional 50 every year or so. I'd like to get to 250 of these within 3 to 5 years. I think that's
awesome. Yeah, that's super ambitious, but I think the way you've implemented all of this and taken it, because I remember you talking about wanting to get into franchising years ago when we were at a conference together. So to actually take your time to build up to this and make sure all the systems are in place so that people do have the approach where they can feel confident and it's not like, oh shit, we forgot about X, Y, or Z thing when somebody opens up. We got to figure that out now. I think that's definitely the way to go. And I honestly have no doubt that you guys will get there too. That's really cool. If somebody is interested in franchising, you've kind of talked about the prices. Is there anything you can say about what somebody could expect to realistically make? And you've kind of given some of the numbers, like 900,000, 28%. Is that your EBITDA, the 28%?
That's where you need to do the math, because I can't earning performance. And people always ask me what's it take to break even? And everybody has different loans and capitalization skills. And, or plans, I should say. So I can't give that number if you would. But again, if you take the numbers in the FDD that I've just provided, you can easily do the math on what the outcome could be.
How about other pertinent information as far as like internal training, staff training, corporate? Because you've talked about it's your business, but you're not, in business alone. What does the support system look like from a training perspective, corporate, marketing, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So, and that's great because, most franchise systems offer you, or they tell you that they're going to give you everything, but I find that it's very limited. From a training perspective, it's all done for you with us here in Cleveland and on your site. So when somebody signs on, if they're an executive model or if they're an owner operator, about 3 to 4 weeks prior to them opening their studio, they will come to Cleveland, Ohio. They'll go through an entire week of onboarding with Brian, my VP of personal training, going through every system, process, procedure from a training perspective, all of the equipment, the consultations, everything. They'll do pre-work prior to coming in. We have an online learning management system. We call it Max Strength Fitness Academy. So they'll get some pre-work coming into Cleveland. And then it's just drinking from a fire hose an entire week. We've got everything videotaped. We've got everything scripted. We role play everything. So then they go back to their hometown and they'll study again for a week and do Zoom calls with Brian back and forth, role play. At that time, their equipment's about to be installed. Once the equipment is installed, Brian then flies out. We do what we call our Friends and Family Week, invite anybody we can, as many people as we can, just to come in and get eyeballs on the product. Not necessarily that they'll become a client, but if they get enamored with it, maybe they will. It's more so to give our team that is training their experience in more reps, right? And then just to get exposure. And then the week after that, we will open up. Either myself or one of my team will fly down there, do consultations for 2 to 3 days, and get them started, get them off and running on a very successful pre-launch, we call that. And then we have just ongoing support and training. At any time that a franchise partner wants to send any of their team to get more training, just sharpen their saw, we're always open to that, and we don't charge extra for that.
Well, that's great.
Which a lot of franchise systems do. They'll charge you $3,000 to $5,000 per person just to come. We want them to come. We encourage them to come. So I want to put down that barrier of cost as low as possible. All they got to do is pay for their flight, and we'll take care of the food even when they're here. So they got to take care of the hotel. And then Brian will go out quarterly or semi-annually to the different studios. He was just out in Niceville to inspect what we expect and just re-go through things with their team. Because over time, the biggest concern we have is we don't want this to get quote unquote watered down, and we want the standard to stay the standard. The beautiful thing with technology now is we can literally go in and we can Zoom and manage and watch a session if we needed to. We've done that a ton of times just to critique and go through things, or just role play with our team, across the country now. So technology, we utilize it the best we can, but there's nothing beats being one-on-one and going through that interaction.
As you've expanded, have you noticed the bottleneck of trying to find quality people? Because there seems to be, at least in my last job, it's hard to find the right people, especially in those beginning positions and even the management positions too. When somebody opens across the country and it's not from your group that you feel really confident with. The old place I used to work at, we had a real problem with franchisees trying to steal corporate people because it was like you just felt more confident and comfortable because this is the person I've been training with for 10 years. Why don't I just pay them to come here, and then it's all kind of built out? Has that been a problem for you guys? And if so, how do you address it?
Well, that's not been a problem for us because none of our clients have actually opened a franchise. I have a lot of them that are interested, but they haven't pulled the trigger yet. But that being said, we haven't had an issue so far across the country because typically the franchise owner is going to have a sphere of influence or somebody in the market. I mean, we only need to hire 2 people to start anyway. I mean, we don't build this business. We build the team as we build the business. So we don't have a lot of wasted overhead. We want 2 active trainers in there when we open the doors because it is one-on-one. You only have 2 7 a.m. slots, 2 7:30, and 8 o'clocks, right? So we have limited availability from that perspective. And then we just grow it as we go and grow that team. So we really just need to find that key, if it is an executive model, that key leader, if you would, first, or just 2 trainers that are great. And then one of them can ascend into a leader. We don't need to necessarily even have to hire a manager right out the gate because the studio owner can pretty much manage the studio itself. Again, it's not a lot of moving parts. It's not hard to run. And most of our clients have reoccurring appointments. So that takes care of itself from that perspective, from the scheduling perspective. So we just let our team do what they do best, let the owner do what they do best. That's getting out in the community. And I say, be the mayor of the town, kiss babies and shake hands and develop strategic alliances. And we have playbooks for all of those things, what to do, what to say, who to go to. It's all scripted. It's all playbooked. It's all role played. It's all in there for them to go out there. From a marketing perspective, we do a ton of different marketing avenues. I believe my strategy when I market is, if I was going to go to fish, I'd put 10 poles in the water to try to catch 1 fish rather than 1 pole to try to catch 10 over the day, right? So I want multiple mediums out there. So we do digital, we do print, we do strategic alliances, community building. We do a ton of different things to attract a couple of clients per medium. And then you have multiple ones that brings in just a multitude throughout the months as we go. So take a very multi-level approach to marketing, if you would.
So you've been finding the majority of your franchisees that have no experience with Max Strength then. So what does that process look like? Are they inquiring and then they're coming out to Cleveland and doing a workout, or how does that all look?
Yeah. So, that's great. So I always tell my franchise partners perspective. So we have a 7-step tried and proven process that goes, we call it our discovery process, and Colleen runs that. So it's an intro call. Then we go over the unit economics, the finances of everything. We go over what we call a mapping call to look at their territories, look at the demographic. We have sophisticated software to make sure we're fishing in the right holes, if you would. And then we go into a franchise disclosure document, an FDD call to go through all the legal documents, make sure they understand what the agreement would be for the next 10 years. Because it's lengthy. It's like 100 some pages, right? It's
Yeah.
all legalese. We want to make sure they understand that. And then we'll do a validation call. Validation call means they're going to get on a phone call with one of my studio owners, my franchises. And that's where they can disclose anything they want, whereas I can't disclose their personal information or private information.
Gotcha.
So they're validating our model. And then we have a leadership call, which with all my studio leaders jump on, because most of our franchise partners are executive model. They need to understand what that studio leader is doing on a day-to-day basis. And my 3 studio leaders can give them a bird's eye view and a deep dive into the day-to-day. And then the last step, or the second to last step, is a founder's call with me. I'll go through, talk with them, talk about their background, and I'll vet them, make sure they're a good fit culturally for us. If they think it's a good fit and we think it's a good fit and it's like a 90% yes on both our parts, we bring them to Cleveland. And that's when we call what we call a confirmation day. They are confirming their decision to become a franchise partner, and we are confirming our decision to move forward with them. It's
Gotcha.
2 days. The first day is all the initial consultation, just like they're a new client. And we take them through a full workout and any machines they want to go through. I always tell them, look, you've gone through the discovery process. You've heard through all my franchise partners, my team. You've seen all the business systems and processes and everything, but you've never experienced what we sell on a day-to-day basis. And it is profound. That'd be like telling you this is the world's best pizza and never allowing you to taste it and ask you to buy. So that's why we always offer the free initial consultation, because I want people to experience what we have to offer. And that's why when we bring them into Cleveland, that's the first thing on the first day is going through the initial consultation so they understand that process. And now they've truly understood what the workout is and how it is. And I always ask them, you had an expectation coming into Cleveland. What was your experience now that you've experienced a workout? And they're like, unlike anything I ever thought of. I mean, it's just like, I'm sure like you and I, like our first experience on a leg press or something, it's mind blowing. It's profound. I always say people remember certain things in their life. Like I remember when Princess Diana died. I remember certain things like cultural things.
Yeah.
But I always remember my first leg press too.
Yeah. I would agree with that. Yeah.
And then the second day, and then we go to dinner, we break bed, just have conversations. And then the second day is all presentations. We pull back the curtain, everything Max Strength Fitness. We introduce them to our brand partners. When I started franchising, I looked at this and I said, what would be the biggest obstacles or challenges that would keep my franchise partners up at night from the time they sign the agreement to the time they open the door? And that could be anywhere between 6 to 12 months. I mean, it takes time to find real estate, to build out your studio, and then to fill your studio. So that's who I partner with. I partner with different companies that's what they do. And that's all they do is real estate. They find the space, and then construction, they build out the space, and then marketing, they fill the space. So we partner with them in different verticals to help our franchise partners, because most of them aren't, hardly any of them, if any, are in construction or in real estate. So we want to partner with those people and those partners only deal with franchisors and franchisees. So they're very specific and they're the best at what they do. So I try to partner with vendors, and I have many other brand partners as well that just provide value to our franchise partners so they don't have to recreate the wheel and they don't have to go looking for resources.
Yeah, that's great. And just as far as the evolution in the future, because obviously you've been really adamant, and I think it's so good about keeping things simple. Is there any changes in the future that you see as you guys grow, as you expand, whether it's to the technology that you're using, to the equipment? Is there other offerings that might happen? You're getting DEXA scans at every location, so like anything that you can kind of foresee or that you're projecting, or are you just kind of going with it and you'll adapt as you're going along?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never closed-minded, and I'll never say no. I'm always looking at other things, but they have to fit within the culture and in the scheme of Max Strength Fitness, right? There's so many opportunities I've turned down because they just don't fit with our model and what we do. And if I did anything, most likely it would be a partnership, because we do one thing and we do it world class. And now if I start to do something else, then I have to do that at a world class level. And then it retracts from everything else I'm doing from a bandwidth perspective on the strength training perspective. So if we were to go into a nutritional component or a medical concierge doctor or something, which those would be two things that would definitely align with what we do.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take my time and my bandwidth and my team and try to develop those things when everybody else, that's what they've been doing for 20 years. So I'd rather partner with people that's their unique ability, not mine. It doesn't mean I don't have knowledge in the nutrition area. I mean, I was a natural bodybuilder and I can talk nutrition with the best of them, but it's not our sole focus. It's not our core competency, if you would. So
Yeah, and it doesn't start with you. It goes to all the
I'd
other
rather
people that
partner
you
with other people and then have strategic alliances that benefit both people from
yeah.
that perspective.
I could definitely see that. I've got a couple clients that use some of those concierge like blood work services. I'm blanking on all the names of them now. That
Well,
would
there's
be
tons of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
They're a dime a dozen nowadays.
Yeah, yeah, but something like that could really make sense with you guys, where the people that are concerned about longevity and optimizing health span as opposed to lifespan,
Yep.
that certainly could be a good fit. So
Yeah.
that would be an exciting development in the future where people are
Yeah.
kind of doing both at the same time. That's really
Sure.
cool. Well, Jeff, just to kind of recap everything, one, I really appreciate your time today. This was
Yeah.
super, super interesting and informative for me too, learning more about the history and how you guys have grown as well.
Yeah.
But obviously, Max Strength coming soon to a city near you. If you are interested in learning more about this, you can just go to, or if you're just interested in learning about the workout and seeing if
Yeah.
there's a studio close to you. If unfortunately you're a Cleveland Browns fan and living in that area, and you do, you are down the road and you want to work out to take away all the pain and misery of not knowing who your quarterback's going to be this season, you
Yeah.
can go to maxstrengthfitness.com. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I had to put in
Yeah.
a Browns
That's
joke at some point.
look.
Uh, and then if anyone is interested in connecting with you or learning more, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I mean, email is the easiest way. Jeff at maxstrengthfitness.com. I respond
Easy.
to everything within 12 to 24 hours. So just give me a little bit of grace, a little bit of time. But yeah, I mean, maxstrengthfitness.com, you can find everything from the studio perspective, but also then there's a tab for franchise ownership. It's a whole separate website, takes you to that. You can find all the information on there. And if anybody's interested, they can fill out a form online. We'll set up an intro call with Colleen, my VP of development, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, hopefully something develops out of this. But Jeff, I really appreciate you taking the time, and it's so exciting to see what you guys are doing for the industry. You're one of the good ones, and I'm excited to see what happens, not just this year, but in the years to come.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's going to be a Max Strength by me sometime
Yeah.
soon.
Sometime soon. Well, I appreciate the
Uh,
opportunity, Logan. Thank you so much. This
Thank you
was
so
great.
much for joining me today.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we will see you again in a couple weeks.